Hi, I am John.H.Watson, and as is well known, I am the fellow lodging of Sherlock Holmes. Today, I will recount the story of our second case together, known as the Sign of the Four. Before we dive into the story, I would appreciate it if you could like and subscribe, helping us share Sherlock Holmes' extraordinary charm with even more people. Now, let's begin. First, I have divided this story into two parts. The part one is titled, The Tragedy Surrounding the Treasure. As the name suggests, it is the greed for this treasure that leads to this strange yet fascinating tale. The story begins with the disagreement between Holmes and me. Unlike the great powers and masterly manner he displayed in the case of A Study in Scarlet, Holmes, without a case to solve, was almost indistinguishable from a down-and-out addict on the street. I tried to dissuade him from his self-destructive behavior, but he responded to me thus.
My mind rebels at stagnation. Give me problems, give me work, give me the most abstruse cryptogram, or the most intricate analysis, and I am in my own proper atmosphere.
Just when I felt completely helpless with Holmes, she arrived. The person who came was Miss Mary Morstan. To Holmes, she was merely an unit for an intriguing case, just a factor in a problem. But to me, from the moment I saw her, I knew she was an angel who had descended into my world. Ahem. Back to the point, Miss Morstan recounted three strange events that had occurred over the past decade. First, her father mysteriously disappeared the very night he arrived in London 10 years ago. Then, 6 years ago, someone began sending her a very large and lustrous pearl annually, and this has continued to the present day. And most recently, she received a letter requesting a meeting. What puzzled Miss Morstan was how the letter described her.
You are a wronged woman, and shall have justice.
All of this excited Holmes immensely, sweeping away his previous self-indulgence and decadence, and making him eager to take on the challenge.
There is no great mystery in this matter.
When Holmes concluded his investigation, he summed up the case with this remark. He explained to me the common link behind the strange events Miss Morstan had encountered, which was Captain Morstan's close friend, Major Sholto. As we accompanied Miss Morstan to our meeting, we gathered more information about Major Sholto and obtained a crucial piece of evidence, a curious paper bearing the sign of 4. The fellow who invited Miss Mary Morstan was none other than Major Sholto's second son, Mr. Thaddeus Sholto. He is a kindly man who voluntarily confessed the cause of Captain Morstan's death and explained the various strange events that had befallen her. It all stemmed from a treasure their fathers discovered in India. Due to some unexpected events, however, the location of this treasure was unknown. Now that his older brother has found the missing treasure, he invited Miss Morrison to join him and his brother in dividing the wealth, so they can complete the work their fathers left unfinished and fulfill his father's dying wish.
Besides, it would have been such bad taste to have treated a young lady in so scurvy a fashion.
After hearing Mr. Sholto's account, even Holmes couldn't help but praise his admirable character. Things did not go as smoothly as Thaddeus Sholto had hoped. Upon arriving at Pondicherry Lodge, we were first stopped by the porter. After some intervention from Holmes, we managed to get inside, only to hear even more shocking news. Mr. Bartholomew Sholto, the brother of Mr. Thaddeus Sholto, had met a grim fate. Mr. Thaddeus Sholto nearly collapsed on the spot, but fortunately, Holmes took immediate action. We opened the door where the master of the house was, only to find that he had been dead for quite some time. Moreover, the treasure chest, our main objective for coming here, was nowhere to be found.
On the contrary, it clears every instant. I only require a few missing links to have an entirely connected case.
Just when we were at a loss, it seemed that Holmes had already seen through the truth. After Mr. Thaddeus Sholto went to report the matter, we began investigating the scene. We quickly found traces related to the wooden-legged man Mr. Thaddeus Sholto had mentioned. However, our focus was on determining how the culprit entered and exited the locked room.
How often have I said to you that when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth?
Holmes didn't give me the answer directly, but encouraged me to think using his methods. With his hints, I arrived at the conclusion closest to the truth, the hole in the roof, which led to the secret room where the treasure was found. Our deduction proved correct, and even more surprisingly, we found evidence of the wooden-legged man's mysterious ally there, which allowed us to infer the method used by the perpetrator. Shortly afterward, a detective, Mr. Uthelney Jones, an old acquaintance of Holmes, arrived with an inspector. Through his deduction, Mr. Thaddeus Sholto was unfortunately identified as a suspect. That concludes the first part. As we know, the treasure has already claimed the lives of 3 people, either directly or indirectly. So, who will ultimately get the treasure? This is the focus of the second part, the owner of the Ogra treasure. Let's continue. After escorting Miss Morstan home and finding the mongrel dog Toby, as Holmes requested, I returned to Pondicherry Lodge. We revisited the crime scene, where Holmes demonstrated to me the entry route the culprit used to enter the locked room. We then set Toby to follow the scent of creosote to track the wooden-legged man, Jonathan Small.
It was simplicity itself. I don't wish to be theatrical. It is all patent and above board.
On the journey following Toby, Holmes explained his current understanding of the case. We both agreed that the murder was committed by the ally of the wooden-legged man, who acted out of inherent savagery. However, due to the widespread use of creosote, Toby was eventually misled by a barrel filled with creosote and failed to find the target. Toby's mistake did not leave us in a bind. After ruling out the incorrect options, we located a wharf and found the lady of small brick house near the landing stage.
The main thing with people of that sort is never to let them think that their information can be of the slightest importance to you.
After Sherlock Holmes's skillful conversation, we learned the truth from the lady's account about the wooden-legged man's true escape route, the steam launch Aurora. This significantly increased the difficulty of capturing him, forcing us to rely on the Baker Street irregulars and their intelligence-gathering abilities, which had proven invaluable in the case of Mr. Jefferson Hope. Meanwhile, as we awaited further news, Holmes also revealed the true identity of the mysterious ally, an aborigine from the Andaman Islands, whose various traits matched the clues we had found at the scene. There was only one step left to completely solve the case, finding the Aurora. Despite Holmes exhausting all his methods, there was no news for 2 consecutive days, which severely affected his mental state. After a change of work, he found a new direction and made a deal with Uthelney Jones, who was facing a credit crisis after Mr. Thaddeus Sholto was cleared of suspicion.
Your friend Mr. Sherlock Holmes is a wonderful man, sir. He's a man who is not to be beat. I have known that young man go into a good many cases, but I never saw the case yet that he could not throw a light upon.
After experiencing setbacks, Jones began to reveal his true thoughts about Holmes and showed greater tolerance toward the stringent demands Holmes had set. The purpose of this arrangement was simple. Holmes aimed to utilize the police force to eliminate any chance of the wooden-legged man, Jonathan Small, escaping and to bring the case to a close. While sitting in the police-provided launch heading to London Tower, Holmes shared his deductions, thinking from the perspective of Jonathan Small, the wooden-legged man, to figure out the Aurora's whereabouts. After thoroughly considering all possibilities, Holmes decided on the most prudent course of action, intercepting Small at the very start of his escape. Following a thrilling chase on the water, Small's accomplice, the native from the Andaman Islands, also attempted to resist stubbornly.
Fire if he raises his hand.
In this tense moment, Holmes drew his revolver, and I whipped out mine. After a fierce struggle, the islander met his end at the bottom of the Thames, while Small himself was apprehended. As part of the deal between Holmes and Utterly Jones, I was permitted to take treasure chest we had reclaimed after much effort to visit Miss Mary Morstan. I was grateful for everything Holmes had done for me, but the thought of the immense wealth he was bringing to Miss Morstan made me feel as though there was a golden barrier between us. Ironically, it was a barrier I had laid down myself. After some brief pleasantries, I opened the treasure chest for her and prepared to put an end to this unspoken affection. However, the box was empty. The emotions I had been suppressing surged forth, and I confessed my feelings to her. "Because I love you, Mary, as truly as ever a man loved a woman." Most importantly, she accepted. On that night, I gained the most valuable treasure of my life. At the request of Holmes, Jonathan Small was brought to Baker Street to recount his story. We learned how he acquired the Ogre treasure, the exact meaning of the sign of 4, and the resentment between him and Major Sholto.
All this is the truth, and if I tell it to you, gentlemen, it is not to amuse you, for you have not done me a very good turn, but it is because I believe the best defense I can make is just to hold back nothing, but let all the world know how badly I have myself been served by Major Sholto, and how innocent the first am of the death of his son.
Though his method of obtaining the treasure was dishonorable, Major Sholto did indeed betray him, and Small exacted a heavy toll on the Sholto family. Regardless, with Small throwing the treasure into the Thames, this endless feud finally came to an end. That concludes the overview of the Sign of the 4. If you want to delve deeper into the captivating details of this story, feel free to explore more exciting content on my channel. If you appreciate my storytelling style, please consider subscribing to my channel and liking this video. Thank you very much for your patience in watching until the end. See you in the next story.